The guy who harassed me at work, let's not meet again. So I got my first job at the new market that opened up beside my house. I worked in the front of the store as a cashier. A few days before Christmas, a customer came to me and he asked if I could bring him some type of box of vodka. I asked my coworker to do it because I couldn't leave the cash machine alone. However, he was trying to convince me to still come to the back of the store with him. My boss had to come and tell him that somebody else would help him and not to be so pushy. After some minutes, he came back with the box and said something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." And I said something like, "It's okay, don't worry. I was just trying to be as nice as possible," and I continued to do my job and he left. Creepy dude who harassed me at work, let's not meet again. Next day at night, he came back and bought more alcohol. He began to talk to me. I asked if he had some change, and he says to me, "I'll give you some change if you give me your name and number." I kind of laughed it off, but he was looking at me dead serious. So I took his phone and gave him a fake number. He stayed for another 20 minutes, calling me his girlfriend, the light of his eyes, and his fiance. Next day when he came back, he was screaming at me. He even tried to grab me by my neck. At this point, I was crying. I told him I would get a restraining order, and he told me he didn't care. And he would just come back. I ended up quitting. Creepy guy at the bar, let's not meet again. I like to go to a local bar almost daily. I don't drink alcohol there, I just get a normal Coke and wait for my ride home. It's my usual hangout spot after work. A few weeks ago, I don't really talk to anybody except for this one time a few weeks ago. This weird guy I'd never seen before came over and struck up a small conversation with me. He asked small questions about me. I really didn't think anything of it. At this point, I already drank about 3 sodas, so I had to use the restroom. I grabbed my phone and my purse and I went to the bathroom. Creepy guy in the bar, let's not meet again. I came back a few minutes later and none of my stuff had been touched. I still called the waitress over though, and I asked her for a new drink. And she nodded, as it had always been ingrained in me that you never leave your drink unattended. As she was going to grab my drink, same guy got a bit huffy at me saying I was being wasteful. I looked at him very confused. I asked him why it was his business if I did. It was my money after all. He then said that I was making the waitress work more than she had to. He tried to wave the waitress off from giving it to me, and I told him, if you think it's such a waste, why don't you drink it? He looked at me shocked and angrily, and he stormed out of the bar. I told the waitress something didn't feel right about the guy and to keep an eye on him. Ride showed up and I went home. Next day I found out he was arrested for assault. Apparently another bartender seen him put something in a girl's drink, and he got angry and tried to fight him. He's on trial. Creepy homeless man, let's not meet again. This happened to me in 2010. I was a college student at school in a big city, which unfortunately wasn't the best part of town. At the time, I was living in an off-campus apartment that didn't have dedicated parking spots, so I always tried to park my car along either the side of the building or under the streetlight. However, on this particular day, I was only able to get a spot on the street behind the building. To get from my apartment to my car, I had to walk out the front door of my building, turn the corner, and walk alongside the building. As I turn the first corner, I see a man walking directly towards me. He immediately starts calling out to me, "Hey, hey," but he's far enough up the street that I think I can make it to my car before he makes it to me. Sorry, that wasn't funny. I quicken my pace, and so does he. Oh no, he keeps calling out to me saying, "Hey, can you help me? I'm homeless and I need to get home." Obviously, that made no sense. And he just kept getting closer and closer, all while yelling out to me and asking me for a way home. Creepy homeless man, let's not meet again. I suddenly realized that I couldn't make it to my car before he would make it to me. So I stopped dead in my tracks underneath the streetlight on the side of the building. I always walked with my keys in my hand so I would never be stuck digging around for them at a time like this. And I also had a keychain of mace. Get him! At this point, this guy was a foot away from me, aggressively asking me for money and telling me he needed to get home. I told him I have no money and I can't help you. He moved closer until he was inches away from me. I picked up my mace, and in that moment, the streetlight shone on it perfectly, so this creep saw it and he backed away. As she should. I guess the sight of my mace spooked him. He quickly walked past me, and I sprinted to my car and I sped away. I called the police and asked them to review the surveillance. They told me the cameras didn't work and they had it for a long time, so there was no way he would be caught. This constantly kept me on edge, so much that I moved out of the city a few months later. Creepy Walgreens stalker, let's not meet again. To give some context, I am a small girl. I'm like 5'1". One night around 9:30, I realized I had no more pads. I went to my local Walgreens that closed at 10 and it wasn't that far. It wasn't in the best area, but it also wasn't in the worst area. I parked my car directly behind the door so I could see it from the entrance. And I was the only car in the parking lot. As soon as I locked my car door, a car came in pulling in super quick, and I felt a little uneasy. But I'm already really paranoid by nature, so I just hurry up and walk inside. So I'm making my way to the aisle, and I have this feeling that somebody is following me, and I hear footsteps, and it's just really weird. There is only me and the employee in the store, so maybe he thinks I'm stealing. Creepy Walgreens stalker, let's not meet again. You know, this kind of pissed me off, but whatever, do your job. I keep looking for the pads, and as I turn the corner, I notice whoever keeps following me is ducking off into an aisle. As I turn the next aisle, this person wasn't fast enough, and I see that it wasn't an employee. It was a 5'4" or 5'5" older man, maybe late 40s, 50s. He had frosted tips and looked like he was trying to look younger, but he actually just looked really sketchy. I felt weird, but whatever, I brushed it off. I get my pads and go to the register. All of a sudden, this man runs to the register. He's empty-handed. Mind you, I've been in here for 15 minutes. This man takes forever to check out his 2 soda bottles, and then he exits. I told the employee what was going on, and we look outside, and he's parked on the driver's side of my car. She said that he was acting weird and antsy, and when I walked away, he asked where I went. He's bold. He let me stay there until he left, which took 7 minutes. We watched him circle around the building and also sit in the dark. I called my boyfriend to pick me up, and I haven't been back since. Creepy guy in my cellar, let's not meet again. I was 17 when this happened, and this story still freaks me out. My friend Jacob was going to sleep at my house for my birthday so we could go travel in the forest the next day. Everything is going well. He sleeps at my place, and the next day we leave with friends for 2 hours of road to go to the forest. After the road, I realized that I forgot my keys to the house. Therefore, the door to my house was not locked. But hey, I tell myself that we are in a safe town and that I also live in the suburbs, so it should be fine. The day is going well, and we decide to go home. My friend Jacob wanted to spend more time with me before I left. We walk in, and I see that my house is intact, but it was nice and wide open. I walked around the house and noticed something. The cellar door, which I never opened, was open, and there was a white paper on the floor. I quickly realized that we had to call the police and check if anybody was there. Creepy guy in my cellar, let's not meet again. I quickly realized that we had to call the police and check if anyone was there, so to reassure us, me and Jacob decided to shout that if the stranger didn't come out, the police would take care of it. I was paralyzed for fear. I would have been out of there already. And I feared that the stranger was coming. The stranger who was in the cellar cried, "You are not at home. Get out where I lock you up." Jacob got scared and asked me to come and see if there was the police. Go and see if there's the police. Luckily, the police had showed up and they took him away in the car. When they went up to the cellar, they found kitchen knives, an axe, iron chains, and a board. He was about to get them. There was also a white sheet on which was written, "Behind you." I didn't understand from the beginning. The police told me later that the individual ran away from the asylum. Today, I am now 25, and now I always check if I had the key on me or not. Creepy guy in my cellar, let's not meet again.